Hello, this is Lisa Lee, and welcome to this week's reading. We are going to do a pick a card, but it's kind of a different sort of a pick a card. The way that this is going to work, because I sat down to the meditation and my guys were like, pick a card. And I was like, wow, it's been a while. Yes, absolutely. And then I said, what is the, what, how, what are we? And they said 3 different questions. And so each pile of this pick a card represents a different question. So ultimately you are picking a question. And there are objects here that go with, I don't know how these objects go with the question, but the guides kind of guided me to these objects to put them with the questions. And so that will, I guess, reveal itself, or maybe it won't be obvious at all. We'll find out. But this is pile number 1 with the goddess. I always associate this with as like, this is like, for me, the way that it feels, and the way that it speaks to me, and how it is conceptualized through my life experience. This is like how the goddess transforms through time. And there's like a process theology along with like the sentience and the goddess with this for me. And I'm just, I did not mean to put too much information into that object, but all right, for the rest of the objects, I will say very little. Pile number 2, there is the hourglass, and it's got gold in it, and it's shimmery. And so it's the gold hourglass. And then for pile number 3, we have a panda dressed very well. A very well-dressed panda. Panda, yeah. Pile number 3 is the panda. And so take a couple of deep breaths. Connect with whatever form of the divine makes sense to you. Whether it's ecosystem or something that has a form that you can more tangibly relate to. Like, it doesn't matter. Just take a deep breath. Connect with your highest self. That's easy to do too. And ask, which question do you need to get the answer to today? And so with that, let's begin. Okay, pile number 1, we have the evolving goddess. And this is actually kind of cool because, as I was tapping into the evolving goddess energy with pile number 1, I had a weird little flash of a vision. It was like it was a chain of events. How do I explain this? So, like 3 different people believing 3 different stories about each other and none of them being true, sort of a thing. I kind of saw this like, it was a teacher-student kind of a dynamic, oddly. I'm in a college town, so I'm not surprised I'm like picking up on that. Or a parent-child, or a mentor to mentee. I don't know what the word for that is. There's something about theory of mind. Okay, so are you familiar with the term theory of mind? It's essentially the way that you think somebody else is thinking about you. This is going to rattle and drive me crazy when I get over here. The way that you think, like what you think somebody else might be thinking about you. Your theory of somebody else's mind, or what their thought processes are. And so just the situation at hand that I kind of see is that there's like 2 people, and the crux of the question is like theory of mind at the very all right, so let's look at the question. How do I tell the difference between fear and truth? Okay, so hold on while I find my water. Here it is. All right. So with that question, how do I tell the difference between fear and truth? Especially, and what I saw with the theory of mind thing, the way that we perceive people, there's projecting, and then there is like what it means to receive. And so when we talk about problems with receiving, like a lot of us have problems with receiving. Like I, as the reader here, can volunteer. You know what I mean? Like, we all do. Everyone in this collective has some problem with receiving. Receiving might have been something where every time you received, there was some punishment built in, or like receiving was mixed with, you know what I mean? Like receiving can be kind of tainted by the context of the story that we like experienced it in, especially if there were like repeating themes. And so when I say that there's like, how do I tell the difference between fear and truth? Like, we're talking about a matter of truth is not your projection. Your projection has to do with what you're working out and how that other person sparks that growth in you. That was my cat. yeah, projection is what you were working out, and so like my cat just jumped up on the window and like nothing was wrong. She did nothing wrong, but there's like this little nail clipper on my desk and it made a little rattle, and I immediately thought like something was gonna fall. So like my projection, like her experience was like, hey, I'm going up on the window, cool, it's just me. But like my like experience with, you know, things falling and accidents, like I immediately went to like that like extreme. And so that's fear. And so projection has a lot to do with like fear triggers and trying to get ahead of what might happen so that you can avoid some sort of calamity, and that's conditioning. Sometimes it's like self-sabotage, like, you know, that is coming from a place of self-protection, wanting to protect yourself. So that's going to be like overcorrection too. And so like being motivated by fear, like, you know, even an example of like, I will never be poor again, and I will work harder than anyone I know, and like not even know where you're going with the work that you're doing because you're working so hard that you're just like missing the plot. Like all of that is fear. And so when we don't know the difference between fear as like the driving, motivating force with like basically what we're channeling, or truth, which is something very different. Truth has something to do with being receptive. And so not being able to be receptive means that like we can be stuck in projection, and projection is just never right. Not once, not ever. Like it's just not right. Projection doesn't work that way. Projection is not meant to be right. Projection tells you about yourself. But people aren't always projecting. You know what I mean? We got to look at this in terms of like an open mind. Because what it is to be a mystic, what it is to be a channel of divine wisdom, of divine energies, what it is to co-create, procreate with the gods and be in relationship with them, is to be open to things, which is the opposite of strategizing to win. Do we understand? And so with how do I tell the difference between fear and truth? Truth is not a game, part of that game. So if you're playing a game, it's not part of the game. And so when we find ourselves forced to play a game, or forced in the game, or like clocking in 9 to 5 in the horrible game, or, you know, there's something to that. And so let's get some cards on this. That was a strong channel that came out even before any cards. Okay, here we go. 3 of Cups, community, justice, and the Magician. Nice. And I want to grab these. I think these are clarifiers, with one being about the 7 of Coins. And the 10 of Wands on the bottom of the deck with the 9 of Coins. 10 of Wands, 9 of Coins. Oh my gosh. You know what I have in the way of theory of mind? There. I have spatial issues. I'm going to just say it. Part of my disability is I have like, I have trouble seeing like spaces. So like it's funny that the cards are always a mess on my table, because, you know, speaking of theory of mind and the way that I read cards, I have like spatial intelligence issues. And so like my spreads are built related to like how I like don't see the space right, you know, and the way that I like kind of yeah, it's like this, because I'm seeing the 7 of Pentacles. 7 of Pentacles, this is like a hard work, hard at work. And 7 of Coins is tough, because 7 of Coins is never getting ahead, never getting there, just being like treading water, treading water, treading water. You have a destination, you have a map, you have everything, you know, you have a backpack filled with everything that you need to build with on the island, but you're forced to tread water. For one reason or another, you have to tread water going to a job you don't want to go to. For one reason or another, you have to tread water because you're contending with a system that's designed for like the muggles, you know, or and like it's so hard not to get triggered into anger and survival, because that's the machine. The machine is like, you have to survive, so you have to do what you have to do to survive, and nothing else matters. And that's a 7 of Coins perspective. That's not open to anything. That's toil. And so when we think about this 3 of Cups as community, King of Coins is a position of establishment, a position of leadership, and it's a funny kind of leadership with that King of Pentacles, but it is the ruling class. You know, from a spiritual perspective, energetically within an ecosystem, nature is the ruling class. The natures are the ruling class. The gods are the ruling class, and those that that are in one way or another, and like I've been seeing this, like endowed in relationship to them, that's not like success at the level of the world's playing field and the game and the sociopath race. Because that there's so much to that. I could spend like years talking about it. But it's something else. It's like life force energy. It's like this whole other thing. And so I see this here as being like a very important position in community. And so how do I tell the difference between fear and truth? What does this mean? Like, what does this vision even mean? What does a position in community even mean? What are you running towards, and what are you running for? What is driving like that race? Like what is the story that you're telling yourself about it? I'm doing this because if I don't, the world won't have me, you know, like, or what? Like, what is it? Like, what is the story around, like, it is so important that I do this because, what is the because? What is the because? Because it's really, that's an important question, and we have to answer the important questions. Being able to answer the important questions is 98% of our relationship with the gods, because it means that we're engaging with the right things. We're not engaging with something that has nothing to do with them. And so, because they're engaging with an expansion of consciousness, an expansion, they're engaging with evolution, but like, especially, you know, of what they are. They want to evolve as the aspect of consciousness that they are, and your participation with them. And that's a lot of things. That's play, but that's a lot of things. You know, it's a lot there more than you see or you've been told. And to acknowledge that is to be in the seat of learning. It's not to be in the seat of like diagnostic expertise, like self-aggrandizement. You know what I mean? Like we have to step so far out of what we've been taught sometimes, because being able to answer the question is 98% of the battle. With the Justice card here in the Ace of Wands, what inspires you? That's where the justice comes in. Like, what is inspiring you? And so you could be the chief counsel of the best of the whole world, like nurse practitioner, loving and kind, right? Like that can be your title over your door. But if the only thing that is important to you is being right, you are operating in fear. And if you don't know that that's where you're operating from, then you're running a race and missing the riches and the glory and the love and the everything, like of the mission in the first place. And so here's where we wanna look at, you know, how do you tell the difference between fear and truth? You start to ask the questions. And you start to think about these questions, and you don't take them flippantly. La 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 la, making shit. No, like I don't want to hear that, and I don't want to be hard on anybody. It's just that, you know, the guides that are with us, and like working with them, and the gods that are with us and working with them, like there is absolutely nothing wrong with a high standard. Like you, and that's not self-defeating. Like I can hear the train in the background. You know, your ancestors are behind you. They're with you. They are the powerhouse in like what it means to generate your arm of consciousness on the tree of life. And so when we think about this justice issue, like what is the inspiration? And then how is it serving you? That's justice. Now, this can be a difficult question to answer, especially in light of the toiling, because that is complicated. So like when we see the Magician here, as you have every tool that you could possibly need to do everything that you are meant to do. The Seven of Coins is the toil, and the justice system is this weird trial and error around, like, it's this thing with development. Like you've got the Ace of Wands here. So that's like something is there's an offer of inspiration. There's an offer of co-creation, procreation with the gods. Justice is, what do you do with it? What are you doing with it? And if you don't, and then if the answer is, I don't know, like that's where the richness of, like, that's where the journey begins. That's where you take the step into the new direction. That's where your horizons begin to broaden with the question. And so a lot of what it means to receive and be receptive is like being in the question instead of like pioneering an answer. And so like, and again, that speaks to sort of like process. And so when it comes to this 10 of Wands, like holding everything on your shoulders and, oh my God, only you, And like, what am I gonna, like I have to get there, and like it's, like like whatever it is, like the 9 of Wands, 10 of Wands. 10 of Wands sucks. Can I just tell you a story about how much the 10 of Wands sucks? This 10 of Wands is a condition where you're always tired, you're always angry, you're always hungry, deprivation stings, and no one is helping you. You have no support. No one understands. There is no witness. But you persevere. You're strong. You're brilliant. You know what you're worth. But you can't do anything but like continue to like baseline at the level of managing despair, because it's too much, because it's a breaking point, and the strength is meeting the breaking point head on, but that's not a good use of strength, and you have so much else you'd like to do. That's where we come back to that treading water. So that is like, your guides are saying, like, that feeling comes from the presence of fear that is like if omnipresent fear is near, then that feeling, that breaking point is where there's never enough, because there's no rest. Like there's a restlessness at like and that's fear. That's driven by fear. So how do you begin to break that fear up? Because I see like an ice pick, like shit, like you gotta, you know what I mean? This isn't easy. How do you begin to break that fear up? That's where the magician and the teacher comes in. The high priestess. Okay, let's get into it. We do have this tension in our growth, like that is where like fear exists, and we have to negotiate with it, because nature and the survival and the drive for survival. I mean, there's a lot there. So 9 of Coins speaks to like, your guides are like, you're so 9 of Coins. Like, your guides are like, you're the 9 of Coins is of all. Like, you are the most 9 of Coins is of them all. You know what I mean? Like, there's something really silly about that, but you are also very much in the 7 of Coins place with what it means to even be able to really produce the way that you want to. And so the 3 of Cups and the King of Coins, like that's again, like there's almost a promise there in community for your position. 9 of Coins, like you're so there, but like you're walking around, it's like this 9 of Coins potential that your guys are looking at, like just like looking at you. I can see them just like look at you. And they're like, put the 10 of Wands down so that you can like properly like manage and magician this high priestess action. And that is like, boom, this is where you are. It can be so easy. Zoom, like justice, like what's inspiring you? Okay, like what are you doing with it? How are you using it? For what end? To what purpose? And so when we ask those questions, when we're in the position of those questions, we can begin to really answer them. Often it just presents us with new questions, but that's a growth arc that is like tangible and like and like guaranteed success. You know what I mean? Like, not to prosperity gospel, but this is not guaranteed success. You begin to like question and answer, and really start to co-create with the gods. That's like having a direction, having a path, charting that path, in receiving, in prayer, in conceiving of. Like, that's a different point of view than like where your mind is running on all autopilot of like, they think this about me. You know what I mean? I'm just, I pick up the frequency, and it's hard for me not to like poke fun at it. It's hard for me not to joke, because look at this 9 of Swords mindset. Like, how are you going to be creative when your brain is like, I can't believe they, and who did it? Like this is a waste of your creative capacity. Think of your creative juice, like life force energy, and you can put it into anything, and you have a certain amount of time. Like, say like your guides are like, okay, when it came to the game of life, we told you have this amount of time. You can do pretty much anything with it. You just have to live through these circumstances. But anything else, you got all of these paintbrushes. This is what's always going to be provided for you. And like, you can trust it. And we're going to like send you signals that like, this is to be trusted and this is to be like toiled through, whatever. There's always work involved with this. This life sucks that way in a certain way, but it can be fun. But anyway, but with this 9 of Swords mindset, where you're like nightmare, demolition derby, like walking around like, you know what I mean? Like, it happens to the best of us. And I know that there are like nervous system issues that are involved in all this. I know that certain life circumstances push us to the absolute brink, but when we can sublimate that like truth to a greater consciousness, to a greater awareness that says like, I can co-create anything into this landscape. I'm a character in this scene that I'm in, that I'm living through. What am I bringing to it? Now we begin to ask the questions. And now when we open for those answers in co-creation with the divine, you know, in prayer with our higher self, when we begin to anticipate, you know, that inspiration and make time for it, like justice is served. And justice is served because of who you become through that practice and the growth that happens in it. And the presence that is built in your body, and that like radiates outwardly, and the truth that you know because you've come to those answers, and the way that you speak with authority. Like the gift is in like the practice itself. And so like when it comes to how do I tell the difference between fear and truth, I would say that truth has a lot more to do with like the process of engaging with the mystery and the question that is presented with every situation that you find yourself in. And the co-creation, the creativity that comes in with the inspiration from the gods, whatever, and the practice of bringing your best self. 8 of Coins. You know, there's something here about like, you know, to be working with an expectation that the work is for the one day when you don't have to work. I'm working so hard so that I can retire. I'm working so hard so that I can just like live in the villa. I'm working so hard so that I can buy the help that I need and the support that I need. All of the ways in which like it's trying to get away from the process. It's trying to run away from the process. The process is so painful. I want to get away from it. I want to get as far into a closet of not having to engage with the world as possible, is like the 10 of Wands. You don't have the strength for people. You don't have the strength for relationships. You don't have the strength for conversation. You don't have the strength to You can't have dinner. I can't, you know, it's a relationship with time where it's always running out. But this time is golden. And what's in it? That's where the prayer happens. That's where the communication with the gods happens. That's where the play, you know, takes place. The exploration, the divination, the co-creation, the community, like building here with the 3 of Cups. And the King of Coins is like, you become the King of Coins, not because you arrive at a community that's built, but in the community building, the process of your participation with the person you become in relationship to the others becoming, not we've become, and here you are getting your like participation award. Because with the Knight of Cups here, there's an offer of love on the table. With the 9 of Swords here, no one's accepting love from a place of terror, because those two substances don't mesh well together. That alchemy, often one has to be removed in order for the other to flourish. Otherwise, one does dominate the other, because the two don't co-create well. And there can be a gridlock, and gridlock actually in the body signals as anxiety. And then there can be I don't know what to do other than run, 7 of Coins. And then the injustice of the exhaustion of never arriving, that's treading water. And so your guides are saying like, yeah, there's work to be done here. But a lot of it has to do with taking the mental anguish out of the experience. And we do that with a simple magical phrase that is like one that's hard to utter often, but it's I surrender. That's the magical phrase right there. I surrender. And so when you think about the High Priestess, the High Priestess is not in a place, that's a place of reception, that's a place of questioning, that's a place of receiving the answer, not driving it. That's a place of contemplation and communication and transference sometimes. Like there's a lot that goes on with the High Priestess. The Magician is at play in what, like she is co-creating with the divine magician, the divine genius. This is a very powerful energy. And so when you think about what the inspiration is and where the inspiration is coming from, if the inspiration is a drive to succeed above all else, above all costs, then that's going to be your experience. But I don't know that's a good experience. Like, I think that might be like a crappy, you know, like deal, because it's 10 of Wands with the 9 of Coins. If the 9 of Coins is a 10 of Wands experience, then the quality of life, it costs way too much. That costs too much. It's too expensive. Your quality of life poor with that 9 of Pentacles experience. And so there's a call here with the 8 of Pentacles to go back to the drawing board about what it is to receive love, because receiving love is not being chosen. It's not the prize. It's not the award. You're not standing online waiting for the person that is going to choose you. That is a receiving in a passive place. But that's not the ticket price for love it's not an experience that somebody else has to give you necessarily. And that's not a cop-out at all, because with the Knight of Cups, and I know that this is all leading somewhere here with how do I tell the difference between fear and truth? Because fear is like a driving force that there's no peace in it. Truth there's peace in. I mean, truth as a hallmark of what truth brings, even when we don't like it, is a level of peace. And so right there, that should be like a telltale. And so when it comes to starting, like, it's like a new job, starting a new perspective, starting a new way of doing things, where an offer of love has to do with the value of what you're given, with the time, and the circumstance is the setting, and then there's all of the characters. Like, it's not diminishing your life to look at it in the context of an unfolding story. It's participating to understand that stories exist as something that makes sense of the experiences that we're in. There is a mirror there. There is a creative opportunity there. It's like, it's bringing it into a form that you can almost, like, your guys are saying, like, they taste some of the pleasure of the experience of being the person that you are and the story that you are, with the opportunities that story offers you. Like, there's something so beautiful here about putting down the Ten of Wands, feeling that you're the only one that's going to get you there. Because the Seven of Coins demands it. But if you're, this is like a hard one to explain, because I can feel with the Six of Coins unfairness card here. And the Seven of Cups is going to be your opportunities. Your Seven of Cups in reverse is going to be confusion about what those opportunities are, not really seeing the opportunities. Seven of Cups in reverse is, I don't see what the opportunities are. They're not there. There are no opportunities. I have a whole day and nothing to do. The Seven of Cups in the upright position, and this is the reverse deck, is about there being options to choose from. So many options that you have a choice. So it's seeing the options before you. Moses and the burning bush. I think it was Moses. I don't know. I see the guy in the robe and the burning bush. It's Moses. The burning bush was always burning. It's just that he happened to see it. Other people walked by and they didn't. And so the options are there. That's what the magician is all about. Belief is permission. Perspective is a lot. You know what I mean? And we know with manifestation, like, being in the right frame of mind will align us with the right opportunity. Even at a most secular level, you can agree that, like, meeting someone who is a future opportunity is helped by the fact that you're not in a bad mood and you're not pissed off and you don't want to talk to anybody, right? And so, like, there is something so powerful about the way that your guides want you to shift your mindset so that you can have the Nine of Coins experience that you have earned with the person that you have become. Because the Two of Swords speaks about, like, removing a mental blockage. And so how to know the difference between fear and truth, even if you think about the worst case scenario. Let's go into a story about the absolute worst case scenario, and that's going to be a dungeon. You're shackled in a dungeon, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the circumstance that you're in. That's the story that you're in. It's pretty unfair. You're not even supposed to be in that dungeon. You just happen to be walking by at a time when there was, like, a raid, right? So this is totally unfair. Nobody will talk to you. You're in the dungeon. A place of fear is complete and total obedience, like self-abandonment, and a despair and a giving up of hope, and a shutting down and a collapsing in on the self, and, like, a slow, like, painful experience. But what would be an example of seeking truth in that situation? seeking truth in that situation, like when we open up to a question, when we begin to think of it as a question, sitting in that cell and praying, I pray to the forces of nature that I know take care of me and are part of what it means for me to experience this story. I know that I'm not alone. I know that I am assisted. Help me see and understand what it is I'm meant to learn and do in this situation. What are the tools that are available to me? Who should I talk to? What should I do? Please inspire me. The likelihood that something is going to come of that is much higher, because then there's like the inspiration, like I don't want to talk to someone, but like the force of like, I feel this confidence, I feel this, I'm going to just do it. Now you have like this alliance. I was just going to the post office. Me too. What are we going to do? All right, well, we're going to start to talk about, and then there's this friendship, and then it turns out it's their like ride or die, and then they like, get out, on a technicality and, pen a movie, and now they're, the brothers, fantastic. You see, like, there's something here about, like, the truth is not about a foreclosed conclusion, because there's no such thing as a foreclosed conclusion. As long as you're still breathing, there's an opportunity for something to change. And so where you position yourself on that change is either going to be fear or truth. And truth is much more the question. And finding the answer, and then bringing it to, and working with questions again. And so I hope that was helpful. I think there's a lot to work with there. How do you tell the difference between fear and truth? We're going to go over this again and tease it out. And everybody is going to come up with a different place on that. Because I am so tempted to over-explain. But I think that, by leaving things exactly where they are, it's, there's so much there for you to apply. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Frame of mind, theory of mind. That's it. The magic is in projection, right? So we started this reading, how do you know the difference between fear and truth? Like, what is your theory of mind? What is it that you are agreeing with in the way of a reality? And where is that placing you in the way of options and opportunities? That questioning of the self is how you know the difference between fear and truth. And you're not meant to just automatically know. Engaging with the question is how you build a relationship with the gods. And experiencing life and all of the tensions of the story is how you work out what it is that you are purposed for, and what you mean to them, and why you mean that to them. And that's not a negative thing. It's never a negative thing. The goal is always to get you to a place of self-discovery and relationship and thriving and channeling and all the stuff. So yeah, the 10 of Wands. What's driving you? Is it addiction? Because a lot of what capitalism is a game that centers on addicting you. And we're all a little bit addicted to it. But that blockage around your capacity and what's available to you, and what it means to work with what you have, and my voice is going. Work with what you have, right? Like, my voice is going because I'm going to end it here. We're done. Pile number 1, that's the answer. And I will see you again next week. Okay, pile number 2, we have the hourglass. Wait. Pile number 2 is not the hourglass. Yes, it is. I don't know, I was just like using this in the previous reading. Life is life, right? We're going to let it be what it is. But pile number 2, those of you that are in the hourglass group, this is a golden hourglass. Let's read the question. What is keeping me from becoming who I am meant to be? So when we think about our lifespan, this like precious little bit of sands, like, let's assume that this is a lifespan for the, and because look at that figure 8, right? That expansion within the lifespan, and all of these little grains of sand. This is these golden days that we have. And so what is keeping me from becoming who am I meant to be? One of the first things I'm going to say in terms of the circumstance around this lifespan situation, hold on, I got to get some water. Let's see. What is keeping me from becoming who I am meant to be? With the lifespan, one of the stickier issues is that we think that there's a destination, or there's a set of milestones that we have to achieve, or we have no quality of life, or it's not, a good life. And with what is keeping me from becoming who I am meant to be, with the 5 of Swords, All right. And the Magician. This is the Five of Swords in the upright. So I like this. This deck is like a reversal deck. Okay. With the Fool card here being about like starting over. So, and it's also the baby. You know, the Fool card is like the birth into the new. Like the, you know, right out of the womb. There you are, Fool. 0, starting gate. What's keeping me from becoming who I'm meant to be? So think about that point in, like, there's something about that point in time. Like, I guess you're like the end zone of the teens, the early zone of the 20s, like before everything collapses into reality, like in a very real way. And it's often like the college years, you know, it's this like golden time of possibility where there's still so much that like there isn't sunk costs, you know, particularly. And so there's all these possibilities. And so with that Five of Swords, and I'm hearing something that I need to fix. I find noise to be hard to manage. All right, so sorry about that. That was a refrigerator that went on. With that Five of Swords, that Magician card, Judgment Day in reverse. And that's almost like the end. You know what I mean? Like Judgment is kind of like the end zone. Like, let's see what this is talking about. Because the sort of situation at hand here is that, like, you know, everybody's born and it's not really about a destination. It's kind of just like doing the best with what you get. And we sort of know that. We do know that. But why do we live in anguish that seems like that's definitely not enough? And that we feel like we have to be so much more. Like, what is success and failure and all this? Like, you know, when we can apply these rules to like others around, like, you know, you do the best with what you have. But we can't really apply these rules to ourselves for one reason or another. Our pacing has to be the best, the best, the best. You know what I mean? And your guys are saying, like, let's think about this for a minute, because what is keeping you from becoming who you are meant to be? I almost feel like the mistake is feeling like you aren't already who you're meant to be in one way or another. But let's look at this with the Tower a moment. At the bottom of the deck, the Tower is going to be like devastation. Like, let me get some more cards. I love the Tower card personally. It's like one of my favorite cards in the deck because I think it's this moment of revelation and reckoning where you can't like lie to yourself anymore and you have to become like the person that you are. You really do have to, like, it's not who, like, what's keeping you from becoming who you are meant to be. It's like, what's keeping you from knowing who you are? You are who you are. The Tower is about discovering that's not who I was. That's not who I thought I was. And I married someone, or I did something because I thought I was somebody else, or that's not who I thought I was. I'm in a career that I hate because I thought I was somebody else. You know, like that's the Tower is not about who you are, because like nothing can really truly shake down the core of who you are, because the core of who you are answers whenever somebody misinterprets you. It is the moment when someone looks at you wrong and you're like, I am not that, or I did not mean that. That is not what I said. Like, you know, it's instantaneous. Like, it is kind of instantaneous. And so the Tower is when something collapses, something we wanted more than anything, something that, like, you know, like we put so much work into it, but it didn't come to fruition. And like, there's so much about like the Tower being something that we built from a platform that was unsound. So like, it was never properly built, which is like, it was never the right platform. It was never the right way the platform should have been. It was never going to hold that load because it was never meant to. And so that's what the Tower is in terms of like, you know, personal development and lifespan growth. So these Towers come in and they knock us down and they start us at 0 again. And we can give up at 0 again, but we're not meant to. That's when we start to really die, honestly. And so when we think about what is keeping you from becoming who you are meant to be, it's something to do with when you have to start over again and start over again and start over again because you went down the road. It wasn't it. You're dealing with these circumstances and you can't do that. You wanted this and now you can't have that, so you have to accept this. This only get, you know what I mean? So like there's a lot there. And so let's get into it with that King of Wands being about like a passion to like live and experience and the things that interest you and the things that light you up and the things that make you mad that you want to like overcome and that you're not going to like take it anymore, like the part of you that like asserts itself as itself, that insists, even when nobody believes you, even when nobody agrees with you, like when you're the last one standing, that's the part of you that's you. And so in some ways, the answer to this question is like about stripping down. And so with the King of Wands being about like this passion, to succeed and to live and zest for life and experience and learning. And that Eight of Wands is like lots of information and, lots of communication and back and forth and doing and zing, zing, zing. Three of Cups is about community. Knight of Coins is about pacing. And then we've got the Prince of Pentacles is about even slower pacing. So the Tower card here with pacing, again, this is so much, I want it, and then this is like into the world. And then this is the reality of what it means to get what you want is slow and methodical. And you have to start with as like a beginner and you can't just like have it, you know what I mean? So like the Five of Swords is speaking about like a battle fought and won. The Magician is all the tools that you need to achieve what you need to achieve, but also the know-how of how to do it. And then this Judgment in reverse. Like who you were meant to be is who you are meant to discover in this process of false starts. The false starts aren't here to foil you and punish you, you know what I mean? Like the false starts, and nothing about this is low stakes. Nothing about this is trite. Look at your ancestors. Look at what their false starts looked like. Look at what those traits that you inherited were forged through. Like there's something about an attachment to being right about a supremacy of pain and suffering that should disqualify any like sunlight coming through. And that's a position, that's a perspective. And so, what is keeping me from becoming who I am meant to be? A lot of it has to do with accepting process here and the uncertainty of you're not meant to just know, you have a lifetime to figure it out. And the more you drive yourself, off of a cliff in one direction or another, the more you learn and the more you get done and the more you have under your belt. But when you have to like slow down and actually hit a pace where you can learn and you can build, because there's something to working with the materials of earth and the circumstances of earth, that you do actually like have to slow your roll a little bit. As magical as you are, like what it means to have those tools and what it means to know how to use those tools, it comes after a battle, after wrestling. It's a strength. And so some of it has to do with the story about the moments of time related to this question. The Morgan, Weaver of Fate. Antipathy. I know I'm saying that wrong. I know that word and I can't find it. Introspection and opposition. So an expectation that you're not going to have a hard story or you're not going to have opposition. What does that say to everybody who does have a hard story and have an opposition? Is there a core belief that you shouldn't have opposition, but that somehow it's the facts of life? Or is there a core belief that no one should have opposition because you shouldn't have opposition? And so opposition damns the course of humanity as something that exists. Like we do have to look at ourselves. We have to have these moments when we're asking questions like, what is keeping me from becoming who I am meant to be? Who are you? Who is anybody? And what does it mean to step into the slower pace of the life that you've been given from a place of acceptance and wonder, because every day is important, because every day is an opportunity and a blessing. And I say that because there didn't have to be a day, I'm not suggesting that there not be a day, but like within the experience of life, within the lifespan, which is finite, is time. And it's a tool. and it's a material, and we get to use it, and we get to create into it, and we're meant to create into it. We're supposed to be creating into it. And so when we talk about the gift, this process of discovery, the gift is the discovery. It's not, I wanted to be this, I tried my hardest, it didn't work, tower, I'm not gonna even try again. You know what I mean? Like, this is where we get caught up in stories about success and failure and quality of life in relationship to success and failure. And quality of life shouldn't really be in relationship to success and failure, because the right word for success and failure in this context is trial and error, which is growth, which is building, which is innovation, which is learning. We play and we touch and we do, and then we make a recipe, and then we discover cooking, and now we have fire. Oh my gosh, this is how we evolve. And so the way that we frame quality of life, when we're looking at it like points and scores, success, failure, gamification, win, lose, and now you're assigning yourself value. No, the reality is trial and error, innovation, growth, transformation, creativity, the evolution of all of humanity, the evolution of consciousness, the evolution of all of the aspects of God that you embody as you move into the world. Like, that is it. And so there's no way that quality of life is determined by success or failure. And if you think that it does, that's where we, this is where we get to have our, like, if you think that quality of life is determined by success and failure, then you're a slave to your success. And what good is the success if you're a slave to it? That's not success at all, right? And so, like, let's go ahead and let the tower fall on an idea that you're meant to be something, a rival, like, perfect, like accolades, awards, consolation prize, like whatever you think it should be. That's not it. That's not it, right? And so let's get a couple more cards. We've got the Poet of Avalon, fame, stagnation, pride, the storyteller. Yeah, I love this card, actually. This is like one of my favorite cards. It's my favorite archetype, one of my favorite gods. And Nyx, enchantress of night, secrets, vigilance, subterfuge. Antipath. Like the other card, man, that word, it's like, weirdly, I couldn't get it out. But with this reminds me of the underworld. It reminds me of the unconscious. It reminds me of dark matter. All that is, it's the essence itself, like the potential and the intelligence behind that essence, and the potential is what it would like to achieve. That's its own goals. That's its own frame. That's where the stories come in and want to expand upon themselves, want to answer a question, want to finish, where the gene pool has worked it out ever so far. Like, there's something here about this being like, the raw energy of potential unformed. And when it hits you, you form something. Like, that's your input on, it's a dance. And so with the storyteller being about like the experience, the sensation, and then when you put words to it, the form it takes, putting that form in. That's the magician, right? And so when you're thinking about success and failure, and that doesn't apply, okay, that's a game. Now we're gonna flick it away. Now we're gonna go over to trial and error. Think about trial and error as being playing with the substance of what is unformed, or forming, clay that is like halfway there, and then you're like, no, I'm gonna do something else. The enjoyment of that process of discovery and putting form to the formless with the storyteller, that is like that's what you're meant to be doing. Meant to be like how you meant to find yourself through the process of the sensations, the life, putting form to it, looking at that form, interacting with it. Like, what are the archetypes? How are they inspiring you? And that means slowing down, Knight of Coins, accepting the pace that you find yourself sort of saddled with in one way or another, even though that could be very difficult. But that's part of the substance that you're supposed to build with. And so that introspection, if you're stuck in a place where you have a lot of introspection, that's because your guides are like, well, you know what? There's a lot that you have to process and you know it, and you're just avoiding it because you don't know where to put it. And your guides are like, well, that's the formless thing you're supposed to put form to, and no one's going to do it for you because you don't want them to. That's not the right tower is built on a foundation of self-knowledge, not like an opportunity that someone gives you that makes it all better. And so what is keeping me from becoming who I'm meant to be? The answer is, this went really fast, but I think it's concise. You are the person that you're meant to be already. Valuing the quality of like the savoring every hour of every day stuff. You know, that's not escapism. Especially when you're willing to face what's going on with, like, you know, because we have this introspection, and we have to dance with the opposition to our growth. You know, you want to get up, you want to dance, but like you have to get to work. Like that's opposition. You have to work with that. That's a tool. That's a, you know, that presents itself as like an opportunity. Like you hate work. You never want to be at work. Those people are toxic. They're disgusting. You know what I mean? That industry, disgusting. Those people, disgusting. Like not worth you, right? But why like trial and error, what can you do within that space? What can you create into it? You're the creator. What can you create into that space? What's a different experience? What's a different way of looking at it? Employing prayer, dear gods and goddesses and ascended ancestors and God, like whichever one resonates for you, because there's a technology to like how it all works. The one that is true for you is true. Praying and saying, you know, I want to see this differently. I hate these people. Show me their good side. What does it mean for me to learn who, like, they're not all what I am projecting on them, because I have a better theory of mind than to think that, like, you know, that person is just like the role that I have assigned them in my hate book, you know, like especially if you don't know them that well, you know, and you're only dealing with them like, you know, for 4 hours a day in a very weird situation. What about setting out on the process of discovery from a different vantage point? You're an explorer. You're observing the environment. There are all these different, you know, types of human beings coming from different backgrounds and different stories. And you're there not to facilitate their growth or heal them, but to understand what it is to engage with this space, with your creative God force energy, you know, given what you know with your introspection. You know, given what it means that they for whatever reason, the fates would have you interacting with this story. It's a surrender in a sense, you know, to this process of self-discovery that entails having a sense of what you want and who you are and having it crumble. That's part of it. That's part of your evolution. That's your expansion. And that says nothing of your success and failure. And it shouldn't determine the quality of your experience in your life. Because what determines the quality of your life, let's let this get just a little bit longer, because it's okay to go for a couple more minutes. I mean, the quality of life comes in the process of making something of the substance, of the formless stuff that you have to deal with. Like, what's formless about I have to go to work and I hate it? Well, what can you do with that situation? Like, what can you form in what can be formed in the way of meaning in dealing with Willis? You know, what can be created in the way of like, you know, what if you discover that like you really like to make dances in the break room, and then that somehow like gets you both out of poverty? You never would have known that if you just left it at like that person has resting bitch face. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is where our guides are saying, you know, there's this untapped potential in all that is with Nyx here, all the unexplored, all the undiscovered, all the unseen, of your neighbor, of your next, you know, of anything. And with the Queen card here about like, you know, you're building an eternal self with the one over here. You're building an eternal self. And so with the Siren being about what is enchanting, you know, what is the call that, like, you know, the haunting that is coming from the anima mundi within, and you can't stop being haunted by something, you know, that's an intuition, that's a message. Discovering what it means is a process. It's not going to be immediately obvious, and that's okay too. Trial and error, right? And so the Queen card is about, like, who you want to be in any given situation is something that you get to determine and create. And so who you are is not determined by the role that you fill. So say you're a cashier at the supermarket. That's not who you are. That's not who your coworker is. So deciding who you are, what is keeping me from becoming who I'm meant to be? Well, it's certainly not the role, because you can be anyone in the role. You can be anyone in that role. You can be any, like, you have the frame, like, think about even like a book or a screenplay. You have the frame of the supermarket person, right? But you can play into that role anyone. You can play the character that's at the supermarket, and like, what is she like when she goes home? You know, what do they like when what do they like when they, you know, take a walk? What are they creating in the kitchen? What is he doing, you know, with that idea? Deciding that the character that you're playing is going to become a queen, and that the story is calling to you. And what does it mean to interact with it? It's coming from this place within, and it's part of like your development forward, that inspiration. There's nothing wrong with it. That is what determines the quality of your life, how you interact with that. And who is that? And what does that mean? And that's a slow process of discovery, of putting form to the trial and error. Well, I thought it was this. Well, what if, you know, you were going to be queen, and you were, you know, working with this archetype of like, you want to be like this, and you're going to marry rich and have that and this, and then you do, and then, oh my God, what was that? No, thank you. You know what I mean? Or you're going to take that, you know, experience, and you're going to turn it into something else. And like, that stuff is moving. It's always moving. It's like these moving targets. It's supposed to be. There's no rigidity. There's no like one role fits all, and there's no stuck in one role. But there is this kaleidoscope of options that is the opposite of, you know, I'm just this, and this is all I can do, and it's all I've ever got, and this is everything. The Morgan there, it's like an invitation to enter at failure of imagination is the phrase that's coming through. And even the worst circumstances imaginable. In fact, like, I find that the worst circumstances imaginable, the worst circumstances imaginable make the most amazing, most beautiful, incredible people, because that the margins is where the gods get in, the cracks, you know what I mean? And so like there's something to be said to like types of privilege that go along with, like, there's something there that I'm like not 100% getting. So we're just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna let you finish that thought. You know, I'm gonna kind of let you come to that kind of last conclusion. What I'm seeing here more than anything else is you're meant to be becoming, period. That's why there's no B. B is the story's over. The false starts are not failure and success, and quality of life is not determined by failure and success. The process of discovery is the gold, the becoming. That's where you're supposed to be, and that's one foot in front of the other, you know, as the opportunities avail you. You know what I mean? Like, in relationship to what enchants you and inspires you, and has you bringing color and all the stuff into the experience of wherever you find yourself, and then what that offers you in the way of a sense of self. And it's all leading somewhere, and it's leading to a stronger tower. And with every new beginning, there is like a better, like, I don't know, there's something here about Anima Mundi being chaos, the tower being rigid, and this interplay as being part of what it is for you to take form during your lifespan. And the quality of your life is determined by perspective more than anything else. 100%, that is the truth. So a lot of what is making the experience unpleasant is perspective. Feeling like you're not where you want to be, or not where you should be, and that you should feel bad about it, and that this is failure. That's keeping you from having a good time, or keeping you from having a substantive relationship with your growth that leads to a good time. And good time is even subjective, and we can talk about the richness therein of, you know, climbing a mountain. You know what I mean? Like hiking is not always a good time, but it is filled with really magnificent experiences that make it worth it. So all that to say, yeah, let's leave it there, and I'll see you guys again soon. Okay, those of you that chose the Panda, the question is, what do I need to understand in order to love and be loved? All right, let's get into it. It's an interesting thing. I kind of feel like this is it. Like, I feel like you are loved. But what is it? What do I need to do to understand in order to love and be loved? You know, this is ringing an odd bell, and like in terms of my intuition, and like I'm very much getting a picture of where the love doesn't get in. Like it's like the love might be there, but as long as there's a feeling of suspicion around it, it can't get in. As long as there's a guardedness around it, like it can't get in. And so it's something about like when terror or when abuse accompanies love over long periods of time, we begin to be suspicious of love itself in one way or another. So I feel like you might be surrounded by love, but you always keep yourself just far enough away to be safe. But that distance is also why it doesn't feel all the way loved. And that distance might have been like, I feel like it was something that may have been installed early in life. So let's take a look. Let's get some cards on this. Let's see where our guides want to take us. And so the love is there, but it's like you stand at the threshold of allowing it in. You might even acknowledge it, and you might even have experiences of it, but then the like a turtle with a shell, like the shell or something. Yeah, this is, you know, I've been getting these two cards, you know, something with a truth that, all right, we're going to like let that sit there, because I've been getting these two cards with this deck lately. They're all the same colors. And it's like black and white thinking or something like that. Like, that's not what these cards are really about. Like, if I were to like actually look at the meaning assigned to them, separate from the meaning I'm picking up, one is like, you know, deader than dead, and the other is like a truth that can't be denied. And the deader than dead is like a some water. There's something about a path here that is about to change, and you've known that it needed to. So like it's in relationship to love. This is an interesting thing. I'm kind of jumbled up a little bit. So let's just keep going. So let me just kind of get a hold of what's coming through. You seem to stand at the threshold of receiving love, and there is like I almost feel like you are afraid of it. Like there's almost a phobia here. Well, first of all, part of what it means for you to understand, like love and being loved, because you have, in one way or another, with this Hermit card, walked a long distance alone, or there's a part of you that's sort of like quartered off from what you bring into experience that has just never seen the light of day. Like it's almost like an arrested development or an immaturity, or you know, a part of you that you just hide from the world and doesn't like get to mature with, like it's not integrated somehow. And so with the Queen of Pentacles, again, it's like, you know, it's like you're already established in love somehow. Like love has like, you are established with love. Receiving love, you stand at the threshold of what it means to accept it. And that's like a funny thing, because it's not, yeah, this is a little bit difficult, because it's something to do with like parts of you that have never received love. There's love there. There's love for you, but there's parts of you that have never received love. And so there is this it can feel like, like this feeling of being lost at the mall when you're a kid and not knowing where mom is and feeling like you should be a grown up, but like there's a part of you that feels like it was never loved. It never seemed like there's something here. Like I can't 100% grab it, but let's get some cards because different answers than I was expecting like are coming through. Like I kind of like, when I channel these questions, like I was like, oh, I bet it's gonna say, like you just have certain like general ideas about. So let's take a look and see. This is going in a completely unexpected direction than even I would perceive. Like, let's see. You are established in love. You are established with love. You've been established with love in one way or another, even if it's a transition right now. Like, there can be a feeling of like, I've never been loved. And I don't think that, okay. A lot of people, there is the I've never been unconditionally loved. There's a part of me that's never been loved. Unconditional love is a really sticky term. Like, I think we could do a whole seminar series on like what that is and isn't, because it's often like weaponized. My cat loves to like sleep on my keyboard, and I always like worry that it's going to break the keyboard, but that's okay. 3 of Coins is about building something. Building a cathedral. It's a very big project. Okay. So with the Hermit card, like the Hermit is like a mysterious energy. You go within to find your way out. We go within to find our way out more times than not because it's so hard or things are so difficult, and we just have no other choice. There's not another like there is no one giving us instructions. So the only other option is in one way or another to like do whatever it's going to take. And a lot of times that entails becoming spiritual, right? And so there are people that never become spiritual. They never, develop an acumen toward like the other dimension, they never even like touch it. They never feel it. They never experience it. And there's something to that. There was an experiment with cats, and you can look it up on Google. I really don't know exactly what it is, but they put cats in a dark room, and once a day they would take them out of the dark room or something for an hour, and they would expose them to a vertical line or a horizontal line, depending on which group they were in. And they come to discover that when they're taken out of the room and exposed to a foreign line, like the vertical line being exposed to the horizontal line, they bump into it. They don't have a frame of mind for it. They don't have a concept for it. It's like it doesn't exist. They can't see it. They walk right into it. And so this is a hard reading. I just got lost in all of that. That was intense. When it comes to spirituality, testing the limits on consciousness often comes from levels of deprivation in one way or another, levels of not having access or having, your skill set be so far, like your coping skill set be so far below what is needed in order to actually cope with a situation that's harder than your coping skills. So all of that stuff leads to this sort of hermit, spirituality. That's a lot of people aren't spiritual because they like it or they want it. It's because they have to find a way to move through things, and they discover the limits. And so I kind of feel that with you. I'm getting that feeling with you. But with 3 of Coins being about like building a cathedral, you're a part of something much bigger. And you're a part of building something much bigger. So part of what it is for you to understand in order to love and be loved is that what we are creating in the way of like practicing and learning and evolving and channeling the energy of love. This is a big project. It's really not an easy project, and it's not a project along the lines of the haves and the haves not. I have love because so and so, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? I do these things and that's why I'm lovable. Or that person has love because they have these qualities and I wasn't given those qualities and that's why I don't have love. Like, that's not really what we're doing with what it is to participate with love. And so when you understand what it is to participate with love, that begins to erode and actually even take some of the terror and the fear out of love. Because when love is high stakes along the lines of someone has to give it in order for you to receive it, and you have to be chosen, and if they don't give it, you don't have it, and then you don't have love, and you don't get love, and you don't get experiences of love, and there is no love unless someone gives you that experience. And so, and it's just devastation, right? Like, what I'm seeing here is like, that's not really the business of, like, the substance of love. That's not the business of the substance of love. The substance of love as a God is a force of nature, because love is a force of nature. Love exists as a force of nature before you're born. It exists after you're born. It exists with you, through you, and then in others separate from you. It does not belong to you. Love is what we consider a God. That is what I just said, and I said it all the time. I say it all the time. That's something I developed to determine like what God is, to explain the meaning of gods, and what the gods are these eternal things. And there's other people who've talked about archetypes in this way. Like, there's lots of people who have kind of like come to this conclusion that the nature of the gods are archetypes related to like forces of nature with us, in us, around us, and that are always. And so when you are able to understand love as something much bigger than the story we're told about it, in terms of like, if you do this, you get that in exchange. You're indoctrinated with with an idea of romance in the same way that you're indoctrinated with an idea of religion. Both are the salvation doctrines with different stories. Both of those stories say that like that person who chooses you, that right relationship with the right God, that's going to take you out of the experience of not enough, or like if no one's offering you love, does that mean damnation? That's not even what love is. Love is a big project of humanity that we all participate in expanding, and it comes in all shapes, forms, and sizes. And the stories that are attached to it, each and every one of those stories is of equal importance and of differing values. And they all the types of love and the aspects of love, like, it's a different relationship with each and every. And so we practice participating with love long before we get a handle on the ranges, right? And so one of the things that you guys want to say is like, you stay at the threshold because you feel so hurt by love, betrayed by love, left out by love, abandoned by love. And what your guides are saying is, like, there's a call to participate with love in order for love to begin expanding and taking on the different ranges. So when I say the ranges of love, there's friendship love, there's romance love, there's I don't know, there's a lot of different types of love, parent, parental love, there's love for humanity, so we can kind of start anywhere with the substance of love. That's what this cathedral is all about. The Ace of Cups is like, love is generated from within. You are love. You are the substance of love. Love operates through you. It is experienced and expanded within you when you participate with what it is to feed it, nourish it, cultivate it. Everything is a garden within you. And so when you're cultivating that love for yourself, when you're cultivating that love for your neighbor, when you're cultivating that love for your pets, when you're cultivating that love for your art, when you're cultivating that love for your friends, when you're in the business of cultivating love, when you're in the process of using your creativity to make experiences in relationship to like the things and the people and the experience of love, that is building this cathedral of love, the kingdom of heaven on earth in one way or another. That's much more what it is to that's what you need to understand, is that love expands upon itself, right? And so if you begin with, I love humanity and I love my friends, that's the ranges, you know what I mean? And then when we move into that and we're operating from that, the alchemy, it includes other things. And sometimes it doesn't, for a reason, because we want to focus, because our soul wants to focus where we are. and they don't, and it's not a hierarchy, situation in terms of quality, because you generate the love. And with the Queen of Pentacles here and the Knight of Pentacles, there is this feeling of like, well, love has been slow to arrive. Love has taken forever, or it arrived and then it faltered, or it's here and I might as well be like living with my sibling, like that kind of thing happens with love, because we fall in love with the idea of love, we fall in love with the archetypes of romance. We really don't take into account the cathedral a lot of the times, and like that can be chasing a high, because with the Lovers here is about levels of maturity. Sorry, I'm like slurping water in the background. It's hard to do these sometimes, like in terms of like my throat. And so when it comes to generating love and participating with love and expanding love and disappointments related to the pacing, standing at the threshold because there's a part of you that hasn't been loved yet, or you haven't had a certain type of experience with love. And with the Lovers card here, the Lovers card does speak to desire. And the Lovers card, it calls you out of your comfort zone, right? And I think that's like the nature of romantic love. If we're going to move away from the rom-com acquisitions, holding, and possession model of romance, and shift into a different model of romance, one of the best ones that I can, like, kind of what I'm seeing here, is because I always see, in terms of energetically and, the synesthesia and the visions, like I always see like a, and I've seen this before. I don't know where this is coming from, right? So like I'm seeing like rivers, you know what I mean? And so there's a way in which you like, you grow apart and then you grow in, and you grow apart and you grow in, and you grow apart and you grow in. Relationships do not exist in parallel to one another. They're meant to initiate growth in both partners, and facilitate and support growth in both partners. In fact, like love is wanting the best spiritually for your partner in one way or another. Like there's some quote somewhere. But with the Lovers card being about, in the archetypal like meaning of the Lovers card, you're living at home with your parents, and then you see somebody that you fall in love with, and you have to leave the home with the parents and embark on a new life with the lover. And that's a process of maturity and growth. But in order to leave the comfort zone, you have to be like taken by desire. Desire moves you out of the comfort zone in order to be at the next level. So it's like, yes, it's about the lovers, but it's also about maturity and maturing. And a process of like leaving your comfort zone and like starting in like a, right? So what I'm seeing with that and why it's important is because romantic love calls you out of your comfort zone every single time, because it's calling you to be the best version of yourself. And because you want to be the best version of yourself in order to like the best version of yourself, and whoever is going to mirror back the best version of yourself is how you want to see yourself. And so you want to be the best version of yourself, to participate in what it means to be seeing yourself, feeling seen, right? And so a whole huge, massive chunk of what romantic love is all about is how you fashion yourself and what your personal goals are related to how you create a self, and how you work with self, and how you work with the inspiration of how you want to be seen and how you want to be experienced, and what it means to cultivate the different things and integrate. And like, so that whole process is romantic love. Romantic love is less about another person and more about becoming the best version of yourself. And when two people are together and they're each in the process of becoming a new version of their best self, then they have an opportunity to fall in love over and over and over again with something that is evolving and transforming. And there's no boredom in that. Or they, like, the nature of the relationship changes. But ultimately, the romance is in desire. That's a goal. That's like you're here at the comfort zone. Desire is that goal. So I want to be seen like that. I want to be held like that. I want to represent that experience. Well, what does it look like? The character in that experience that you're seeing as yourself, what kind of life do they have? What kind of, what do they look like? How are they going about this? Like, what is the process at play? how are they dressing themselves? That's like artistic expression. And you're, like, who are they? Like, that's the romance. And that's not just the romance with a person, that's the romance with life. And that's bringing romance into your life. And it's a type of love. And so when we participate with love, especially with romance, we're participating with desire related to who we want to become and how we want to be received. And that is something we do immediately. And that's a level of love that we can immediately participate with. And so what do I need to understand in order to love and be loved? That threshold there and the fear of really receiving and really participating with love has a lot to do with disappointments in the pacing or the stories around it. And the Ace of Swords here with the Ten of Wands, like, breaking your back, like doing it alone, as strong as you can be. It's sort of the opposite of engaging with desire. When you're like to have no needs. This feels like some kind of toxic independence, or like just a level of independence that you're not going to let anyone in. And as long as you don't need anything, then you can be loved. If you don't have any needs, you can be loved. Like, that's what this Ten of Wands is feeling like. And the truth is kind of like, there might be some element of you do have to work on getting your needs met at a basic level before you're ready to feel the desire come in, because that's just where you are right now. That might be the pacing, but that doesn't exempt you from participating with love, and it doesn't damn you or the opportunities for love in the process of what it means to begin to participate with that substance and everything that you do. And so, with what has to die here is some belief that there's no work involved, that it's about being chosen or rejected, and that's it. And that you just throw out, you're going to show up the way you are, but that's actually, romantic love operates differently, because it's not about you're not enough. It's just a whole different experience. Now, puppy love, falling in love, there is an aspect of discovering the version of yourself that doesn't have to try, that is just loved for the sake of it. And that's an experience of love. But it does come with participating with all the different types of experience of love. Like, we participate and then we get the ranges. We start to shut down participation. We start to shut down availability of ranges of experiences with that. And so it's like expansion and contraction. And sometimes we don't have, a relationship with love because we're working with, some anger, you know what I mean? But ultimately here, what do I need to understand in order to love and be loved? Is that to love and be loved, you first have to participate with the substance of love in all of its, it's nature, right? So all of the species of love, and all of the aspects of love, and getting to know them all, and getting to know them in yourself, cultivating them within yourself, and then a relationship to desire when we think about, you've cultivated love, you're working with love, now you're going to start to tap into this relationship with desire. What do you want more of love? What does that look like? How are you being received? How are you being seen? What does it mean to cultivate those aspects of yourself? What do you want to put on display? How do you want to show up in life in a visible way in order to begin to engage with the romance of that possibility? What does that look like? Desire always entails a bit of a journey from where the you are is and where the desired thing you want is. And that whole journey is participating with love and expanding upon its opportunities to dance with you and create with you. And so with that Hermit card being about parts of you that have never really felt love, begin by like bringing some love into those parts. It's not about another person. And the Exile here, strategy, failure, trauma, like, it's understandable. There are lots of people who use love to manipulate. There are lots of people who say it's love, but it's envy from the bottom of the ground to the top of the mountain. A lot of people make that mistake. A lot of people say it's love, but it's some kind of like the ways in which love is often accompanied by dysfunction. We could talk about that for hours. All right. And we could talk about the substance of love and what it does and why it accompanies dysfunction, and what it means to learn to recognize it as that which, doesn't abandon like those who are trying to learn their way through it. But at the same time, like, there's so much there. that I invite you to think about when considering like the nature of like what love is, what it does, how it operates, because you have not been rejected by love in any way, shape, or form, or the love that is around you is not insufficient in any way, shape, or form. What it means to allow people to get close to you, because I feel that with the threshold here, I think with you, because there has been some trauma, there has been some kind of way in which love was weaponized to destroy you. I feel it very strongly. Um, your guides are saying to participate is to begin to sort of open yourself up to the ranges, to the idea that love did not reject you. Like this opportunity to begin to cultivate it with the ageless, the light in the darkness, healing, graciousness, acceptance. Something has to die here in terms of this, like going it alone. 10 of Wands is your, like, I don't care if you have a whole crew of people around you, if you're even partnered up. If your cards is 10 of Wands, you're doing it all by yourself. So acknowledging that that's not participating with love is step one in terms of having more love. Step two, in terms of having more love, is not looking at like all of the things that you don't want to do. You don't want to go to the library writing club because it's all 80-year-old women. Well, that's how you start to participate with love. Okay, maybe you're not going to find the romance of a lifetime in there, but that's not what you're looking for. You might be looking for a mom and need a mom, and that's where she is. You know, you don't want to go to, you know, the volunteer puppy, you know, walk program, but you're supposed to go, you know, get out of the house more, and it's right down the block and it's going to be stupid. But then you get a dog that you love more than you've ever loved anything. You know, there's all these ways in which you don't want to foreclose, you know, like what it means to take one step at a time towards love with that Knight of Pentacles there. Because it's worth it. I guarantee it. and sometimes what we'll do is we will go all in. We will meet someone that's the romance of a lifetime. We will love them, and then it becomes like the perseverance race through the pits of hell. Okay? And that perseverance race through the pits of hell really teaches you a cost of love that you feel like you could never afford to pay ever again. But that's another thing that you need to know about this process back into love, is that you don't have to ever, love doesn't cost that much. Love should never cost that much. Love shouldn't have costed that much. In fact, it's free and it builds upon itself. And so if you can't accept love because it's so high stakes, because of the experiences that you've had, your guides are inviting you with this like cute little panda with a little outfit, you know, take your little panda self with your little outfit, and leave this hermity spot. That's sort of like this truth that needs to land here, because it's unsustainable to think that you're not loved and that you can't have love and that love isn't for you and that love is not, you are love. That's what this Ace of Cups is. You generate love. The different types of love, again, like you're sort of invited to just begin to participate heavily and heavenly with the substance of love, inviting it in, asking it its name, asking it to reveal itself to you, asking, you know, this is where we get in conversation with the divine and we get in relationship with the divine. And then spirituality, which is obviously here, also needs to have some, like, what are the gods and like God and the divine? Like, you're missing out if you're not in love with these divine forces, because that's one of the most amazing experiences that you can possibly have. And so you're invited into relationship with the aspects of nature that animate you. And you're invited into conversation and contemplation with what it means to ask questions and receive answers. Even just journaling is a conversation with the version of yourself that is infinite and already lived your life. And so when it comes to desire, like, you know, desire a version of yourself and then move towards that, that's the beginning of opening the door to romance and leaving the comfort zone and becoming something more, maturing. The desire calls you out. The desire always calls you out. That is the nature of romantic love. It means you're not where you are with something, you know, of your becoming. in relationship to like how you want to be received, how you want to be seen, because so much of what romantic love is being appreciated and like the right kind of mirror. You want the right kind of mirror. You want to have a sense of how you want to look, and so that's the romance that you start with. And so with this necessity, focus, and transition, a different kind of relationship to love with Hades and equanimity, wisdom, inevitability. The memento mori comes to mind. Memento mori is like the Victorian, everybody's going to die, and you keep a memento with you that forces you to appreciate the quality of life because it's fleeting. And so like one of the relationships that we can have with humanity and the experience of living, that like falling in love with life again, is this memento mori moment where you're like, this is a beautiful experience that my soul is having. And falling in love with yourself is, and I love that I chose this person that I am to bring the life force through and animate and experience and grow and form into, and that form is something that I will have forever in relationship to the divine that wanted it. And I have gone all this way, and so it's like your guides are sort of inviting you to understand that to love and be loved starts with you are love. And what it is to be loved is to participate with love. That's the experience of love. That's being loved by the universe. That's being loved by yourself. That's being loved. And now the ranges come in with experience and with participation. And every time you, Eight of Coins, work on this capacity within yourself to expand the love that you're currently holding any given moment, this is the whole point. Love is not something that you acquire. It's something that you cultivate and expand, like growing a garden. Each relationship needs tending, and sometimes, there's a season when the relationship just looks like dry and you're bored and there's nothing to do and they're not inspiring you and they're annoying you because it's cold and it's wet and the snow and it's like frosty, like you don't even want to be here. That's a season of a relationship. And then there's another season of a relationship, like you're blooming, like you're glowing, they're glowing, you're glowing, like, you know what I mean? You're lighting, like they're bringing to light aspects of you that you didn't even know they were there. It's the sunshine. You've like opened up, you know what I mean? Like, so there's these seasons to love, and so when we stop trying to make love fit a prescription that we've been given by rom-coms to determine its value, when we stop comparing our love to an ideal that is never even like what love is, then we start to actually see a lot of the places where love was hiding, that it reveals itself. And so you're at the threshold of receiving a lot of love. There's a lot of love around you that is there for you to receive, but you're meant to take one step at a time in baby steps, because there is pain here. There is hurt. There's some form of a relationship with exile that sucks. It does, but it doesn't mean that you're cut off from love. It doesn't mean that you're cut off from participating with love. And once you're participating with love, the possibilities of love grow exponentially with that participation. Even at the most secular level, you can see that, and so, I think you should put down the battle to be loved and pick up the truth that you are, and that the work that needs to be done is cultivating the garden, working with the seasons, figuring out like how to position things so they're getting enough sun and enough water, and that's not being exiled from love. That's taking, this is a Page of Cups. That's taking the offer. Page of Cups is like, a child offering, like a present, you know what I mean? Like it's a song, it's laughter, it's taking it small, take it small bites at a time. That's what you need to know. And so pile number 3, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you again next week.